Good morning, everybody. I guess it's afternoon for you because you said you were in Ireland. Is that correct?
I'm I'm in Ireland, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So good morning for
Mid-afternoon.
me from Michigan rather than Chicagoland today, and afternoon, early evening for Helen Mullane in Ireland,
Hi.
who's writing the fantastic comiXology series Groupies right now with art by Tula Lotay. And I'm just going to start by give us like the front counter pitch for that. Like if I mean it's not being sold at a front counter yet, but I can't imagine this won't get some sort of print version at some point. So if you're in a comic shop and you're trying to comic shop or bookstore, because I don't know where this one's going to sell better. But if you're comic shop or bookstore, who do you put this in the hands of? What do you tell them to get them to buy it?
So I think it's going to be bookstore. It's going to be sold in print by Mad Cave. Are going to
Oh,
be doing it.
nice.
Yeah, which is great.
I love
And
Mad Cave.
going to do the trade. And the elevator pitch is a gaggle of groupies go on tour with a band who are becoming stratospherically famous. They're living the high life, but they find that there might be something rotten at the core of the tour.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
They
it's
do
kind
they do
of
kind of get a major hint of that, or at least the reader gets a major hint of that on like page one.
yes,
I forgot
yeah.
that until I reread it this morning.
Yeah.
This is going
Um,
to be, and like I hate to start. I feel like I'm almost starting in media res, but it's something that's been on my mind as I read it this morning. This is going to be a very different read. People who read it collected versus who read it single issues. I had read each issue as it comes out. And this is my first reread, and there were so many things that I noticed differently because it hadn't been a month since.
mhm.
So, like, I'm
For me,
assuming that you did specific issue crafting as well as having a story crafted. Talk to me about how you did that.
yeah. So the format of the series is kind of unusual in a way. Every issue is from the point of view of a different girl, a different one of the groupies,
Which
and
is
everything
something
is
that I actually picked up today that I hadn't
Mhm.
picked up reading month to month. I should have
Interesting. Yeah.
because it's not like I didn't realize whose point of view I was from. I just managed not to really remember that that wasn't whose point of view I'd been from last month,
Yeah,
if that
yeah.
makes
So
sense.
that's something that I was really eager and like interested to play with because each of the girls' perspectives is truly very different, or
Yeah.
I think I hope so.
No,
It
definitely.
their perspectives are very different. Some are more romantic, some are more mystical, some that everyone's got their different point of view and their
More
different.
worldly, more naive,
Yeah,
more
exactly.
more
And
aware, more lying to themselves. They're
yeah, and I
different
mean,
levels of unreliability in their narration. I mean,
yeah, I
I
think
I am very much looking forward to going through all of this together too, because I,
um,
I loved it just reading single issues, and like I'm almost less prepared having read all four issues this morning than I was before that, just because I have all new questions.
okay, well,
Rather than fine tuning the old questions, I have all new questions.
yeah, okay, but I mean, I think that sounds like a good
I,
thing.
I hope you take that as a compliment because it's
Yeah.
meant as one.
Yeah, because we're playing with this like hyper subjective uh storytelling and not just from the narration, which is very, it's very single-sided for each girl and pretty unreliable. They don't all care about the same stuff.
Right.
They're not all interested in different aspects of each other's stories. There's like there's kind of romantic angles that are really important to some girls and of no interest at all to others.
Right.
So there's this very high level of subjectivity, but this is something that even it runs through all of the art. One of the incredible things, one of the many incredible things that Tula Lotay has done in
Oh
this
my God.
series is really buy into this hyper specific
Yeah.
point of view.
Yeah.
So even though every issue looks glorious,
Oh my God.
and there's this dreamlike and very druggy kind of through line, but there's, when you kind of go back and you really kind of examine it, the actual visuals of each issue is very much led by the point of view
Of
of
the
the girl,
absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know.
How many issues are planned?
So it's going to be five. So the
Oh, so
next
it's only
issue,
you're going to manage to wrap it all up in one more issue. That
yeah, well, that's the other thing that I think is it's quite interesting, like having spoken to a few people and got reactions and stuff. I think it's one of those series that kind of it looks like a mystery series in a way, but it's not really.
okay.
I think it's not giving too much away to say that.
No, and besides, I mean,
It's just not the aspect.
there are four issues that have been out for anywhere between 2 weeks and what, 5 months?
Yeah, I
So
guess so.
so like I'm not going to tell you you have to spoil things, but as long as you're not saying stuff specifically from issue five,
Yeah.
if if people have decided not to go read Groupies yet, they can go read it on comiXology Unlimited right now, and then come back and listen. And now you don't have to worry quite as much about
Yeah, highly
giving.
recommended move to anyone listening to this. Uh,
Right. Um,
but
Thank you,
yeah,
John Lees, for reminding me that that's a way that we can handle this.
but I think that the in terms of tying things up and following through any particular mystery, it's not the aspect of the series that I'm the most interested in.
And that intrigues me even more. Um,
Yeah.
because it's not the part that I'm most interested in either. I just know enough of how storytelling normally gets done that I'm sitting there going, I mean, I'm more excited because what I was worried is that like the stuff that I care about, which is the people and their relationships, was going to have to take back burner to explaining this whole demonic record label that may just be violent. I mean, because that's another thing that I love is like there's the implication that, oh, they rocketed to stardom because of violent acts being done at the behest of or with their record label people. Um, but there's nothing that like makes that clear. Among other things, all of the people who are seeing any of that stuff are also high as fuck.
Yeah, it's definitely fundamental to the series how high everybody is.
Right.
I think,
So, is it a case um, uh, oh, we've got people shooting to stardom because their record producer is Satan and they're making sacrifices to him? Or is it the case that their record producer is just a sadistic pair of assholes and go, ooh, we could take advantage of your groupies to be sadistic assholes?
I think in
and
that way, the
and I
series is kind of quite true to life in
exactly,
certain echelons.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and in some ways, if either that's the truth or it just turns out that that question isn't central to the story and it becomes so much more about the characters who are the parts that I care about the most anyway, that makes me happy. It's just not ever what you expect when you've got some level of high mysterious, possibly supernatural drama going on for it to actually remain grounded. But that sounds like exactly my favorite type of that sort of thing. And now I want to read issue five yesterday.
I think for me, like I mean, there was a lot of different kind of influences on the comic, both for me and for Tula Lotay. You know, with giallos and Satanic Panic and all these sort of things. A lot of movies from the 60s and 70s and stuff that
Right.
really influenced us. But for me, one of the other really big influences is stuff like Boogie Nights.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, just in terms of,
I mean, in like just in my head right now, it's like Almost Famous meets Harvey Weinstein.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, or
You
Diddy.
know, where yeah, where it's like they really are in it for the music, and that doesn't mean that they won't do certain things, but like the experience they're looking for isn't to I mean the way a couple of them refer to the Starfuckers or the recently hung on. They want to find that band that they're moved by the music. I mean, they remind me a lot of Penny Lane in Almost Famous, where it's like, yeah, it's about being moved by the music, and half of that's her full of shit because she's full of shit to herself, and that's one of the things that's great about these characters is sometimes they're full of shit to themselves.
Yeah, definitely. That's really because like one of the things that I'm really interested in is and it's something that I'm interested in even looking um at the music industry and looking at the kind of increasing number of things that we know about fame and how
Right.
the top echelons of fame and riches kind of work. Um, One thing that I'm really interested in is where kind of how the fact that we have our own reasons for doing things and might want to do things intersects with the fact that we are maybe also being exploited,
Right.
used. And the fact that these two things can both be true at once. You
Well,
know,
and uh,
Rupi can be in a situation that she put herself in with someone that she wants to be in a situation
right.
with, and then can find everything kind of going out of control, and realizing that, she didn't want it, or like whether it's be because a situation is bad, obviously bad, or whether it's something that like years later she looks back and she's like, oh, but that was actually very exploitative, which is
Right.
a really common thing that happens.
Well, I'll even take it a step further, and I don't know if this is something you're intending or just an after effect. Look at the difference between Bash and Psy and the record label execs. The record label execs are clearly predators.
Hmm.
Psy feels more like a predator by opportunity.
Yeah.
So I don't think he thinks of himself as a predator because it's not the hunt that he gets off on. It's like having all of the available game that
Hmm.
he gets off on, right?
He's
And
a
then there's
fuckboy.
right, and then there's Bash is more like, yeah, I could do that, but that just looks tiresome.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm not going to blame him for doing it because he seems to be enjoying himself. He's
Hmm.
able to look at it and go, hey, these girls, if they don't know what they're getting into, they should, because it's not like anybody's hiding anything around here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I
Um,
mean, Bash isn't gonna like isn't the kind of guy who's necessarily gonna like help anyone who's gonna step in
right,
or anything like this. So, he is kind of in a way, he's definitely kind of part of the problem,
right.
but he's not going to actively do anything
But also, I
bad.
would argue that there's a really good chance that were they not mega superstars, neither Psy or Bash would behave the way that they are.
Well, definitely, yeah, because the situation they're in, really kind of corrupts them. And
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Psy had like the goal in life to be able to bang as many chicks as he could and
Mhm.
toss them to the curb if he wanted to, and toss them up the ladder to the predators if they wanted them and whatnot. He just kind of found himself there and went, well, this is kind of fun, and he was fucked out of his mind on drugs to boot. But if he just wound up as like a riveter somewhere, I'm not going to guarantee that he'd be a perfect guy, but like we wouldn't be talking about him being a predator. Or at least I
Yeah.
feel like it's much less likely that we'd probably be talking about him as the sad sack who, screwed up every relationship he was in because he couldn't stay sober.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. I think that he's one of those guys who, if he didn't get famous, I think he'd be one of those guys who, like, through his 20s and the first part of his 30s, he would always have game. He would still treat women how he treats Lisa, I think, to some extent.
Right.
He would
But a
definitely
lesser extent because of less opportunity.
less opportunity. But then
Yeah, it'd be
as
like he'd cheat on his girlfriend like once a year rather than every
exactly.
day, every
Yeah,
city.
exactly. And he wouldn't be so high on his own supply, so he wouldn't like those really kind of abusive, manipulative things that
Right.
start coming out. He wouldn't be doing that so much. But then I think that this same guy, this theoretical, really good-looking, magnetic guy who doesn't get famous, who gets to a certain point in his like 40s or 50s, and it's not so cute anymore.
Right.
And then he's lonely.
He either wakes up or starts living an absolutely miserable existence where he decides that the world has turned against him when in reality he was just a jerk all along.
Yeah, but the thing is that on the other side of it, there's, Lisa, for example, is this kind of, she's very
Right.
naive, she's very
Right.
romantic. She kind of, I kind of always, among my friends, we call it 500 days of summering yourself.
Okay.
You just like refuse to listen to what someone's telling you,
Yeah.
and you let yourself kind of get really excited about somebody who's just no good and isn't interested in you and told you that,
Right.
I feel like Lisa is such a sucker
In
for
some
boys.
ways, I feel even worse for Vera because he even more explicitly told Vera that, and she still can't let go.
Hmm.
Even though she's got the guy that seems to actually like her.
I know she actually, but I think that at a certain point she kind of
But we've
realized,
also seen that so many. I mean,
yeah.
it's so much like high school and college relationships writ large because it's on a national tour.
Hmm.
And I was working senior care when Justin Bieber was going through what a lot of people called his bad boy stage, but I never really thought of it as his bad boy stage. I thought of it as his dumb 14 and 15-year-old stage that everybody covering it like forgot that he's
Yeah.
15.
Hmm.
So I've got all of these old women who'd see like there'd be coverage on the local news. Justin Bieber peed I think the one that they really went nuts, the ladies anyway that I was taking care of really went nuts over is he peed in a janitor's bucket in a hotel. And I'm sitting there going, he's 15 years old.
Yeah, he's just
He
being a
has
bratty
been
kid.
the biggest thing in the world since he was like 10. Who
Yeah.
has told him how the world works?
Hmm.
He knew that that was dirty water. Was it appropriate? No. But again, who
Yeah, it's
if
almost like
it
he's
was
looking
your
for a boundary.
15-year-old that did that, you'd be sitting there going, really? But you
Mm.
wouldn't be talking about them being the worst thing in the world.
Hmm. And I mean, not to be too dark, but like since then, we've also found out a lot of some of the things that he kind of went through in his
Yeah, I
teens.
don't even know my Justin Bieber knowledge, but I believe that.
Yeah, because he's all wrapped up in the Diddy case and stuff.
I believe it.
Yeah.
You know,
Um,
I, and like I've mostly avoided the Diddy case because I'm certain that one of the hard things that I have is like, and I'll blame my autistic brain a little bit, but mostly it's just my general curiosity on how things work, right? Is sometimes I come off like I am excusing something when I'm really just trying to understand it.
mm,
And like an explanation is different from an excuse. having empathy for how they got there is different from an
Mhm.
excuse. Diddy's another case where he went from nothing to on top of the world in no time at all, and probably didn't have anybody to help him learn how to grow up.
I think there's also the fact that, and this is something that I'm also like very interested in as a concept, and I think
Right,
it's when it comes to the kind of antagonist or set of antagonists for
right.
this story, um, I think that you can't be trained or taught or prepared for life in those particular echelons of fame. I think it seems to, from everything that I see and everything that we find out over the years and read, it seems to commonly create an incredible emptiness within people.
Well, and
And it's actually incredibly damaging. Like they no longer have, the world becomes full of like yes people, everything becomes
yeah, you don't
incredibly.
know who's around because they care about you and who's around
Yeah,
because you're rich or and who's around because you're famous. You,
yeah.
I
So
mean,
and
and we
and
see it's particularly so much in people who start to hit that echelon before they were really fully formed people to begin
yeah,
with.
exactly.
I mean, our brains are still forming
Yeah,
into our
yeah,
late 20s.
exactly. And
So
so
if
they're
you
trying.
haven't figured out your moral compass and
Mhm.
suddenly A, you don't have any financial restrictions on what you can and can't do, which, at least in the United States and frankly in a lot of the world, means that you don't have any legal restrictions on most of what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
So, unless you have somebody around you that like you trust and you don't think is just trying to hold you down or any of the million things that you can
Mhm.
convince yourself because you suddenly went from that kid that got beat up on the playground to that kid that can like ruin your life by saying to somebody that they would like to ruin your life.
Mm.
Um like I can't even imagine what it would be like to
Yeah, so I think you're they're living in a very kind of like liminal,
yeah,
amorphous, amoral kind of reality, and then when you add to that the kind of the rush of performance and like
right,
acting adoration, and then the
yeah.
down after, which loads of people talk about this. Prince spoke about this, Whitney Houston speaks about this. It's really it's a very common struggle. That even when you're not at the very top, anyone who is doing a lot of this sort of performing and having
I
right
mean,
like
I have to be careful about how late I schedule a podcast on a weeknight because I teach and I got to get up in the morning. And if the
Mhm.
conversation goes well, it's going to be 2 hours before I come down enough to sleep.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's just having a conversation.
yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine what it would be like if you were playing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of somewhere in Ireland, so it's not just a U.S. reference.
Like
What's the?
Crow Park or something.
There we go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
Isle of
you know,
Wight. If you're out on the Isle of Wight, it's
yeah, sure. If you're going to go in the UK as well, then
well,
but
it's kind of in between. Kind of. I was thinking the Who for a second.
yeah, nice. But I think and even though so these things are not the kind of main focus of the story because I'm more interested in
Right.
the girls, but everything that's kind of bubbling underneath, um, you know, in terms of the way that the everyone is spiraling, the boys are spiraling as well as the girls, even though we're very much from their perspective. I think that these sort of things from this conversation are it is exactly what is underlying and informing all of the antagonistic forces within the story. And then you always have, like you talk about the challenges of the stars, but I
Right.
mean, even in real life, you always have these really rich execs in
Yeah,
the background, you know, making the most money most of the time.
right.
And kind of and really being the power brokers behind everything, you know, often being the
Yeah.
scariest and most amoral
Well,
out.
and to bring it back to the girls, I think that's I think what draws me to them the most is that they are more ordinary people and they have certainly more ordinary friendships with each other. And
Mhm.
their view of these superstars is really, I mean, because they got attached to the band before they started skyrocketing, is is much closer to a ground level view. So
Mhm.
even as you have these men and the male and female exec that are kind of like your big bads hiding in the shadows, like just exploding and becoming caricatures of things. The girls themselves, A, have trouble seeing the men as that,
Mhm.
and B, are trying to figure out how to balance being who they are, which, I mean, the band follower is certainly different from just the teenager that goes to school and you know, but they're not that different from people that we've known.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? They're that wild. I mean, for that matter, I read Painted last night, and they're um God, what's your is it Celine? Who's
Yes,
the
Celine.
yeah?
Yeah.
There's Celine. If she
Hmm.
doesn't have the grandparents that decide that she's broken,
Yeah.
there's Celine. If she actually gets to spread her wings before she decides to settle down and work
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
behind the scenes but in a more effective, less um what's the word I'm looking for, performative way, you know,
Yeah.
because that's really what they are. They're in the performative stage of their life.
Yeah, exactly. And this is something that, you know, they are all to a greater or lesser extent playing a part.
Right.
100% because they want to be these girls. But uh, the girls that they're trying to be, no one really is, like not through and
Right.
through.
Right.
Everyone, you know, even I'd say the closest to it is probably Vera.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I was
because
about to say I could see Vera becoming the stable rock star wife.
hmm
You know, you see them every once in a while where like, I mean, for that matter, any of the bands that last tend to be full of them, you know.
yeah.
Pearl Jam seems to have five really strong family relationships that they go off to when they're not touring, and they get excited, you know, they like, I tend to be a Pearl Jam junkie. I've listened to way too many of their live shows, but
Yeah,
like
okay.
they're you will know how many wives are in the crowd because it will come up and it will come up with joy. It'll be
Oh,
like, we're
really?
all really happy because all of our
hmm
wives are here tonight.
I think the thing is with Vera is that I think that she's willing to do whatever it takes.
Right.
Like, I
Well, but
think
what I meant though is I feel like as she ages and matures, she might be the one that realizes that what it takes is being the grounding influence for a guy like
Mhm.
Bash. I could
Yeah,
see her
yeah,
become,
yeah.
she's not there right now, but if I look at all of the characters,
hmm
Vera is the one that I see becoming, possibly staying in the rock and roll theme
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
forever, but it's not necessarily going to be a burnout way. The
hmm
others, if they survive being groupies, are going to wind up as art teachers and as activists, and like they're
Yeah.
going to move into grown up jobs that are still as
So cool that
subversive
you
as
saw
what they're
that.
doing here,
Hmm
but with more of a specific purpose. Like here, they have that subversiveness and that love for art and that love for just feeling, but they haven't fine tuned it into what can I do with that
Yeah.
other than bask in it? How can I
Yeah.
make it and share it rather than
Yeah.
just experience it secondhand?
That is so very, very true. That is very much how I feel about you know, all of the girls. And I think the thing with Vera is that I think she would put up with really quite a lot
Yeah.
in order to maintain a rock star girlfriend or a rock star
Right.
wife life. I think she
Right.
would really put up with some shit. Am I allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way? I
I've
have.
been swearing. How many times have I said fuck already?
Good, good, good. And so,
Even when we don't swear, we tend to mark it as adult content because then we don't have
yeah,
to think
fine.
about whether or not we swore.
Yeah, sure, sure. Um, cool. So, but yeah, so Vera would put up with a lot of shit to maintain a lifestyle. I think she really puts,
Yeah.
you know, she really is quite um, a, a kind of straight down the line kind of person. She wants what she wants, and I do think that she's much less kind of artsy and romantic than the other girls.
Right.
Um, and and I think you're right. They're
But
all at the stage of performativeness and also of
right.
like experiencing themselves from the outside. I think you know, look at
But
like their
Vera's also the one that was the Stones fan. Because here's the
yeah.
thing that
I mean,
struck
they're
me
all
with
Stones fans,
Vera.
I guess, but she got with a Stone, I
Well,
think.
well, but no, but we find that out when she's actually at just a dive bar.
Yeah, yeah,
She's
and she's yeah,
separated briefly, right?
yeah.
But she hears the Stones and she winds up dancing. So Vera to me is the one that the music as much as the lifestyle drives.
Oh yeah. I mean, I mean they're all driven by the music, but yeah,
Right.
that is very, very true.
I mean,
Yeah.
so yes, she will put up with a lot to, but I mean, I would just found myself. I mean, did you ever see any of like the late stage Rolling Stones tour photos? I particularly like the end of the concert where they're all lined up to do their bows, and you've got Mick and Keith and Ron all decked out in leather and denim and headbands and whatever, and then you've got Charlie Watts looking like Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, great.
You know, white slacks, blue sweater, hush puppies. You know, for that matter, I read an interview with them for the Bridges of Babylon tour, which, oh my God, it was what, 1997? But they were still ancient. It
Yeah,
tells you
yeah,
exactly
already
how
old.
old they are now. And Charlie got called out on this by the interviewer, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I don't even stay in the same hotel as they do. I want to go to bed after shows, and you know,
Good for
my
him.
wife and
Relatable.
grandkids travel with us, and we get up and we go to museums during the day, and they're like, well, then why are you here?" And he's like, because this is the greatest fucking blues band I've ever played in.
Yeah, amazing.
So
Good for him.
I could
Yeah.
see Vera becoming like the Charlie Watts's wife,
Yeah, right.
you know,
Hmm.
where it's like, oh, we're doing these amazing things, and then we're going back and we're going to come down in our own way. It might involve green tea and maybe a cozy mystery, and then we're going to fall asleep and we're going to get up in the morning while they're still completely hungover, just barely have gone to sleep, and we're going to go to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
nice restaurant and a museum, and then we'll meet them at the show.
Yeah, the others had spent their night cavorting with
Right,
25-year-old.
right.
Uh,
Yeah, I think that's the future that I could see for Vera.
yeah.
Because she just, again, like even in the way she's jealous, it's like she thinks she'd take better care of Sai. He
Yeah,
wouldn't do those things if he was with me because I would do this. He wouldn't do those
yeah.
things with
She's
me because I would
delusional.
do this. Now, whether or not that's actually, I mean, I agree, she's delusional, but
Yeah.
it comes from her desire. I don't want to say quite as less to fuck the rock star, but at least equally to partner and take care of the rock star. She would be
Hmm.
okay being the one that took care of the bills and made certain that when they got home from tour, there was food in the pantry
My
and
God,
all of
she's
those
yeah,
little
Sharon
things.
Osbourne.
Yeah. I mean, again, there are lots of them. I mean, actually, comics is full of them too. I mean, there's so many comic creators that are only able to do it because they have a spouse that has health insurance and the ability to say,
Mm.
hey, stop drawing, you need to eat.
Yeah, right.
Stop writing, it's time to spend some time with the kids.
Um, I think I think with Vera, she is
And I can't believe I've become this fascinated with Vera because I didn't think I liked her that much even like an hour ago.
well, I mean, this is the thing about Vera. She's not the most likable person, but
Right.
she is very Vera. Like
Right.
she is very like, staunchly kind of herself. And actually, out of all of the girls, she's the one who's most kind of directly influenced by something in real life, which was when I was starting this journey, one of the things that inspired the beginnings of the germ of what became Groupies was these magazines called Star Mag,
Okay.
70s, and they were printed and released on the Sunset Strip in I think like 1970 to like 1970, 71 or something. It was quite short-lived. I think there's only 6 issues. And I was reading one issue, um, and it had an interview with these groupies in it. And I mean, they were very young. It was a very, different kind of age. They're actually like young teenagers. But one of them, this is very really annoying. I've forgotten her name. Um, the other one, Queenie was one of the girls, but the one who inspired Vera, I'll remember it in a minute. But she talks about the groupie life in this interview, and she is so completely cold-blooded and transactional in the things that she says, um and like egocentric. I mean, it's really quite wild, this young girl. And I thought, God, this is a fascinating person. This is a
Yeah,
this
I want to see this story now, and I'm really curious as oh wait a minute, here we go. The 1973 LA Groupie Mag.
the girl, what is, I might have to look it up myself. So the girl who was the most kind of cold-blooded in the interview and who was the most fascinating, she is she's also the person that Iggy Pop wrote a song with lyrics about her. Yeah, a New
Okay.
York doll took my baby away. And she famously slept with like Bowie and all sorts of people. She's really quite really very famous. Um,
Is it this looks like Shrey Meckham was the cover of one issue. It's not saying who the cover is on this one, but it's got Bowie Simon. Yeah, crazy.
okay, so you might have to like cut out this little bit while I'm
Yeah,
fixing clothes,
it happens all the
while I'm
time on this show. It's
but
like, ooh, we're talking about something. We need to talk
yeah, so
more
I'm looking it up
specifically
now.
about it.
Um, so I'm looking it up now as well, but um,
And of course, there are other Star magazines now, which makes it harder to find. But there I found star1973.com seems to
oh yeah,
have
that's got all
digital
the issues.
copies.
Like,
Yeah,
oh, here we
digital
go.
copies of
It's Sable
everything.
Star.
Okay.
Sable Star is the name of the girl. And so Sable Star and Laurie Maddox were a kind of duo. They were friends. They were groupies. They were part of the baby groupie um, gang in LA at that time. And and yeah, so Laurie, I read an interview with her, and it just kind of blew my mind, her attitude and the way she discussed things, and how kind of transactional she kind of was in her thinking, but also how hierarchical she was as well. There was a lot of, in the interview, there was a lot of talk about the kind of the different levels, and it was from this interview with her that she was talking, about star fuckers versus groupies and all this sort of stuff. So she kind of really stayed with me, um,
Okay.
and so out of that came Vera, um, and then eventually the whole kind of story.
Yeah, no, I now have one more thing to add to my ever-growing pile of things I want to read and don't have enough hours in the day for.
Yeah, right.
Oh, wow. Um, yeah. So I want to pivot a little bit because I read Painted, which I think was originally War Paint, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Last night, and that was a super cool um, YA story that still deals with a lot of the same themes, young woman empowerment, finding themselves, etc. You want to talk to me some about that story?
yeah, sure. So, Painted is it's actually not a story that I originated. I was kind of brought on later in the process, with
So you're more of the script doctor than the
exactly
okay.
with Kev Sherry, who's a fantastic musician and writer from Scotland. Um, and
Wait a minute. I thought Scots and Irish people didn't get along. That's what I was told.
oh,
It's
you're
not
thinking
Scottish, it's crap.
yeah. Well, I think it's the English.
Well, that
Everyone
makes
sort of leads
sense.
with the English, yeah.
Well, no, I know that none of you get along with the English, and for good reason.
Then there you go. But yeah, no, this I'm very pro Scottish people, especially Kev, who's fantastic. Shout out Kev. But yeah, so it's the story of it's kind of a coming of age story, and it's a story of guilt and the mistakes that we make when we're young.
It's also a
Um,
story of hierarchy
yeah, and
and
bullying.
how adults can be afraid of bullies too.
Hmm.
I mean
Yeah,
that
definitely.
was one of the things that caught me a lot as a teacher. Um, like the kids are all upset and like, oh, he's only not sticking up for us because we're girls. But like, I think only one of them is like, oh, wait a minute, like
Hmm. It's quite threatening.
adults have been killed by this people's family.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
um,
I think that's one of the things that is really cool about Painted. It's quite
layered.
a layered perspective. Yeah, it's it's also it's really quite a kind of sad story that examines how, when we don't kind of understand each other and we don't communicate with each other, you know, there can be there can be really bad outcomes for some people, and your potential doesn't having a great amount of potential and spirit doesn't necessarily make you kind of um
Society can be um, really difficult for people that it doesn't understand.
yeah.
We like to think that that's getting better, and like sometimes some places it is, and sometimes some places it isn't. And there's a lot of three steps forward, two steps back. And actually, I read a book recently by L. McNichol called A Kind of Spark that
Okay.
deals with an autistic like third grader, but also and it's set in Scotland, ironically. It's
Hmm.
part of why it popped into my head. But she's also got like a college age sister that's autistic, so she's kind of got her guide. But then they learn about witch trials
Hmm.
for those of us listening, because we don't put up video. I did big air quotes there, trials. Um, and she immediately relates to them because she's sitting there going, they killed her for being different. And it wasn't just her, her older sister had a friend who was also autistic, but like had one too many. I hate to even, I mean, as somebody who's autistic myself and works with an autistic population and whatnot, I hate to even really call them violent outbursts, because violence to me has intent. And most of the time with autistic kids and what get called violent outbursts, they're physical outbursts, but like
Mm.
there's no intent to harm. There's only intent to feel safe.
Yeah, right.
To I mean, autism is something we're still struggling. I mean, like, I don't have an autistic diagnosis because when I was a kid, I could talk, and like there wasn't such thing as non or verbal autism.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would come much later. DSM-5 is probably the first clinical definition of autism that I fit, and that didn't come until like the early 2000s. Um, but like my wife and I, and we're, as we're going through my journey of having to figure out like how to manage some of the sensory stuff that affects me way more than I'd ever realized, because
Hmm.
I grew up going, oh, you just got have to deal with it. And I promise this will come back. This is a long way of going back to your story. um, my wife and I, like this morning, we were listening to a record on the turntable, and I noticed that like, oh, I can hear the needle and the music, because I've got the
Hmm.
speaker over here and I can hear the music coming from me, but the turntable's over here that way. And I can hear the needle and like just the tinny echo of the music that's being, and it's like I suddenly want to know how phonographs work, because I can hear how it is just when it's the needle, and how are they, blowing up that sound to be so beautiful. But also like I've only recently learned, as I'm both my wife and I have been looking at more stuff. She's doing more research because I'm trying to figure out what works for me, and be able to tell doctors about me rather than internalizing other people's stuff. But she's doing tons of research, and when she sees things that seem very much like me, she'll kick them my direction. And I was reading something, and the woman was talking about being able to hear electricity in the walls and being frustrated by hearing the water and the pipes in the walls and whatnot. I'm like, oh, that's what those sounds are.
Hmm.
These buzzes and whatnot that I have heard all of my
Mm.
and had no idea a what they were, and b why nobody else seemed bothered by them.
Mm. But you're
And
just you're registering the sounds that
that most
are
people
not
aren't picking up
necessary
at
to
all.
register. Yeah, exactly. So
Right.
they're not getting picked up.
But where I'm going with all of this is because the friend of her older sister had one too many physical violent outbursts, she'd wound up institutionalized. So the girl in the story equates that directly with the witches that were burned for being,
Mm.
and that's kind of what happened with Celine in
Mm.
Painted, is like she was just different enough that they decided to put her in the hospital.
Yeah.
It's not at all clear that she needed to be in a hospital,
Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah.
but she didn't fit their version of conformity. And rather than
And
trying
she
to
was
meet
covered
her
with
where
it.
she was,
Hmm.
they shunted her away,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
definitely. But also, I think that there's a real significance to the fact that she really was kind of, without spoiling too much of the action of the book, like she was really pushed to where she ended up,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Uh, and so she was kind of, you know, really kind of forgotten and not helped and not helped and not helped until, things came to a head and then she was punished for what happened,
right, right.
which I think is also
And while it's
a story
only
that we see.
teased,
Hmm.
and I think that's really well done because it's one of the things that makes it more all ages. The kid that's not ready for it might miss it. The kid that's ready
Yeah.
for it won't, and the adult won't.
Yeah,
That was really a life sentence, not just you're going away for a while.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think it's Katia Vecchio who did the art for it.
Yeah,
And I think that she is, I mean, she's a wonderful artist in general, but she's really great at this communicating this great kind of YA warmth.
yeah,
Um, and I think that her style really suits it, suits the story and stops it being too much of a kind of body blow.
yeah.
But also, it's very tender, and some of the spreads are really like they're so imaginative.
Oh, yeah.
Really fantastic what she did.
So this actually leads perfectly into one of my favorite questions to ask anybody I'm talking to for the first time. And it's kind of a twofold question. As a creator, why comics? But then also just kind of give me your comic story. And by comic story, I don't mean just like what work you've done. Like, if you remember what was the first comic that you picked up and like it struck you as something that this is cool, you know? Were you one of those people that came to comics late, or have you been reading them since you were four? Did you read them from 4 to 8, and then you were too cool for them, and then rediscovered them because of something at Vertigo? You know, whatever. Yeah.
So I don't know if other people who are from the UK, because I'm from London originally.
We have
Parents were
actually had a
from.
2000 AD book club with John Harris Dunning.
Oh,
So at
I
least
love
some of
John.
the people, at
Brilliant.
least some of the people here should know something about 2000 AD if that was where you're going. I'm just guessing.
No, so what I was gonna talk about is the fact that we have these things called annuals
Okay.
in the UK. And so annuals would be released at the end of the year. You'd have your like 1990 annual of all different things. So like I had like a She-Ra annual.
Okay.
And we had like Beano and Dandy, which are these kind of very British comedy comic books
Okay.
that children loved back in the day. And these annuals were really they were a very, very common thing. Like every household would have them.
Okay.
And that is the first way that I came into contact with like sequential storytelling.
That is different from US annuals that like I think at one point were kind of supposed to be like that, but the annuals are really like the 13th issue of the year of a ongoing series and oversized and sometimes cool and sometimes feeling like an absolute cash grab.
Yeah, right. I think back in the day, it was definitely a cash grab, like 100%. But they were really
Well,
cool. So,
but
like
what
the
I meant was a cash grab for the people who were already buying the 12 Amazing Spider-Mans that would buy the Amazing
yeah, right.
Spider-Man annual rather than the person who maybe didn't buy She-Ra all year but got the She-Ra annual. And
Yeah,
maybe it got
exactly.
them into more of it, and maybe it was a thing of its own.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, from my memory, I don't remember there being like a She-Ra comic.
Right.
particularly in the UK, um, or Dino Riders, which is another annual I have, or like Battlestar Galactica.
Okay.
Um, these things were kind of made to celebrate, often a television show, um, at the end of the year. And they would have kind of magazine style articles, and they'd have interviews and pictorials and
Oh,
things. And
wow.
then
I
they'd
didn't
all
even know that Dino Riders was a TV show. How did I miss this?
yeah, Dino Riders was
I
an
was
amazing
eight
show.
when it came out. I should have been all over that. It's even an American TV show. How did I miss Dino Riders?
Yeah, Dino Riders is the truth. Dino Riders is like up there, one of my all time faves. So I was a very big cartoon consumer. Well, I mean my whole life really. I was going to say when I was a kid, but I never grew out of it. I never had a phase where I wasn't into it. I was just have always been dedicated to cartoons and also to kind of weird British puppet type shows like
Okay.
Rainbow and the Muppets and just anything like that. So annuals they would be released for cartoons that I really liked. So
Okay.
that's when I first remember being kind of familiar with the format of reading sequential stories.
Right.
Um, and then I always tell this story in interviews, but the first floppy comics that I came into contact with um, when I was a certain age, I guess maybe 8 or something, then I used to be allowed to like walk home from mass on my own on a Sunday or with my brother and sister with a bit of pocket money. And we used to go to like the newsagents on the way home. And we had like new equivalent of like newsstand, comics.
Okay.
Be like magazines like Starburst and all that sort of stuff, and newspapers, penny sweets, which would cost, pennies, and we'd get bags of those. And then these comic books. And so I used to pick up random comic books all the time. But with no rhyme or reason. I didn't know about following stories. I don't know what quite I thought was really going on. I just tended to enjoy them as these one-shot things. And I feel like I remember Amethyst or something like that being one of the early ones that I picked up. Anything that's like both superhero and girly would
Okay.
instantly have me on board. But I mean, I remember picking up random X-Men as well, and just kind of whatever was around. 2000 AD, I didn't get into till later. Yeah,
Okay. Well, you just mentioned earlier, and we'll get to it, I'm certain, that you did a documentary on 2080, particularly
indeed.
Future Shock. So I knew it was going to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, but it's like a bit later part of my journey. I actually think because so I was born in 83
Okay.
and my kind of coming of age, this sort of era for me, I don't know if it was really the best 2000 AD era to kind of get me involved, that sort of 90s kind of
Yeah. But
lad.
but you did have, what was it? It was Philip Bond's magazine at the time. Was it Deadline?
Yeah, Deadline, I think would have been a bit kind of indie looking for me at that time.
Okay.
I was
Okay.
really like when I'm thinking about my really young years,
So you hadn't crossed over into the indie land and the
not
in
in the
your
early
in
days.
your early
No,
teens.
I was very so at first it was completely random, then I became quite a DC girl. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, and
What was
and
your favorite
really
DC?
so I was always a really big Green Lantern fan.
Okay. Who's
I
your Green
really liked
Lantern?
things. Um, who was do you mean like when I was a kid?
No, I mean, who's the one that you like the most? Are you a Hal Jordan girl? Do you like John Stewart? Do you like Kyle Rayner? Do
Oh,
you like
Raina.
right?
Yeah, I think that when I was a kid, I was it would be Stuart. But I really like the Green Lantern Corps. So
Okay.
this is what I
That's
when I
cool too.
this is when I would get really excited. I would get really excited by um by the weird Green Lanterns, and when there was
Okay.
like a lot of Green Lanterns, and anything that
Okay.
was that had to do with like the deep mythology of it all. Like I
Okay.
loved it when he
No.
went to like Oa and stuff.
Okay.
So I really liked stuff like that, and I always really liked kind of big super teams. I really liked the JSA,
Okay.
um, and like Justice League International, like
So the
silly
Keith
stuff like that.
Giffen, yeah,
Yeah,
Justice League International. I need to go do a deep dive in it because everybody loves Justice League International, and
yeah,
I don't
Justice
feel like I've
League
done enough of it.
International is really, really funny.
Yeah.
Um, I liked watching kind of or reading people kind of get annoyed at each other and stuff.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I just lived for the drama.
You mean that superheroes might be human?
Yeah,
I
exactly. I like
prefer my
the kind of
superhero
sniper
hero
stuff.
stories to involve humans.
Sorry.
I said I prefer my superhero stories to involve humans, and they don't
Yeah.
always. They often involve people who are just
I
all
think that,
hero all the time.
yeah, totally. And I think that yeah, I do like a bit of interpersonal drama. That is kind of where I
Yeah,
tend to sit.
it is nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
You
and if you're
know,
not going to do that, then I like things to be really kind of outrageous and crazy, like the Green Lantern core can
core.
be.
Okay. So were
Um,
you a Legion of Superheroes fan, or was that just one of the eras that I
yeah,
only ask because I have a couple of dear friends who are massive Legion of Superheroes fans, so they would get very upset with me for not asking.
oh, no, Legion of Superheroes has not been something that I have particularly, yeah, no, not really. Um,
Well,
I,
hopefully Johnny's not listening because he'll cry
sorry, Johnny.
and
Um,
or start writing emails to your website to say this is what you should like about them.
yeah, but I think that also, I think there's something really interesting, isn't there, about levels of like completeness.
Yeah,
I am definitely, I can be quite a scattered reader.
me too.
So I just
Totally get that.
yeah, so I'm not
I need to
always
finish story arcs.
yeah, I'm not always the most linear kind of person,
Right,
and I don't always yeah, so there's no guarantee that I don't always follow everything through,
right.
kind of logically, but I just kind of get into something that I'm really into, and then I'm feverishly into it, and then then my attention gets taken off by something else. But then also I think, and I think this
My wife just walked into the room, and I wish that I had you on speaker rather than my headphones because she would have been going, I know somebody like that. I, I
relatable
generally have two
content.
or three serious obsessions at any given time until I run them through. And
Yeah,
then it's not that I never go back to them. I will revisit them regularly, etc. But like not with the same furious intensity that I had. Like
yeah,
I had a
exactly.
month where all I listened to was The Clash when I was like 22, and I
Yeah.
had 2 months when I was 25 where I immersed myself in only live REM.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I think I think for me, I mean, and then there's certain books that come along and they kind of change your perspective on things and they change your taste, I think, to some extent.
Definitely.
Like my taste had always been, I think, pretty light-hearted when it came to superhero stuff until I kind of read Kingdom Come for the first time.
Okay. Mark
And then
Wade.
yeah, which is,
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a wonderful book.
it is.
But it kind of, I think it kind of, I remember it kind of altering my brain chemistry a bit
Yeah,
and leading me in kind of much darker paths. And then I think I read more kind of more Batman and stuff like
right,
after Kingdom Come than I had beforehand.
right.
Uh, Because before I was kind of always seeking out these slightly more kind of light-hearted books. Um, so yeah, that's my
When
superhero.
did you move from superheroes? I mean, because you don't write superheroes, so clearly at some point you
Not
decided that
for
the medium. The medium was good for more than superheroes.
Well, oh yeah, yeah, completely. I mean, so there's a few books that I mean, I think that these are really similar for all of us, really. If we, especially if we have a first love in the superhero world, there's those books that change everything. So Kingdom Come, but like Watchmen,
Right.
um, read Watchmen, and then from Watchmen, then you just go into Alan Moore in general.
Yeah.
I think Alan Moore was probably one of the most perspective opening, mind altering writers for me once
What's
I
your
got
favorite Alan Moore?
Watchmen.
Okay. I have
Uh,
nobody ever says my favorite. My favorite is the Jack B. Quick stories and Tomorrow Stories.
that's right. Is that
That was in ABC Comics.
oh, I don't know if I've read them.
Yeah, the Tomorrow Stories were his anthology series where he had like three different stories per issue. And
Okay.
the Jack B. Quick stories, Jack B. Quick was like this kid genius, but like he would use stuff to it was like half science, half ridiculous. Like the two things that I remember the most from the Jack B. Quick stories were the time that he defeated gravity by taking the fact that cats always land on their feet and toast always lands butter side up, and putting butter or butter side down. So he put butter on the back of cats, and they would float. But what he didn't take into account was eventually they'd get too close to the sun and the butter would melt. And then the other time where he convinced the local police officer that he needed to give Light a ticket because it was going way over the speed limit. And first the entire town went dark, and then when Light slowed down to the speed limit, it was just like everything moved in slow
Oh, great.
motion. So yeah, it was
Oh, I have to check
Alan
those out.
Moore,
That
and
sounds really, really
I
fun.
yeah, I forget who the art on that was right now, but I'll find out in a second.
He
Um,
definitely has an amazing ability to create like a short story. Like one of my favorite Superman stories is the is it called What Do You Get for the Man Who Has Everything?
oh yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which is this amazing, just like short one shot that he did. And it's just so
Oh, it
perfect. It's
was. It
like,
was Kevin Nolan did the art on that.
oh, okay.
Yeah, Kevin Nolan did Jack Be Quick.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I've got it written. Jack, be quick. I've got it written down in my notebook, ready to.
it was in Tomorrow Stories. Tomorrow Stories featured stories about the cobweb, which was kind of like femme fatale noir type thing. The First
Okay.
American, that was kind of like a Captain America type thing. Gray
Hmm.
Shirt was kind of like a shadow type character.
Yeah.
Jack Be Quick, and then a few Splash Brannigan, which was like I don't even know how to describe Splash Brannigan. I don't remember him well enough, but if I recall correctly, it was like take take Aquaman and make him like into the Simpsons action hero type.
I was gonna say the surname is giving me that guy from Futurama.
Right. Yeah. Maybe it was. Yeah. Yeah. Very much
Yeah.
that sort of.
But I
So,
think
and the
that
whole series was like 19. It was, I think, yeah, it was between 1999 and 2002. I think it was like 14 issues, something like that.
great. I'll definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean I've got a lot of stuff that he did, like the he did like stuff for wild on Wildcats and things.
Yeah. Yeah. I like his
So a
Wildcats
lot of
run.
yeah, me too. A lot of his like early kind of superhero stuff, and then another book of his that made a massive impression on me was Halo Jones.
Oh, Halo Jones, I adore.
Yeah.
That was
Going back
our that was
to
our first 2008. I hadn't read it before
Mhm.
John picked it. John Harris Dunning picked it for our first 2000 AD
Oh, did
book
he?
club. Yeah, so
Yeah,
we
go John. Spot
we
on.
we discussed that on 22 panels.
Yeah.
And I really loved that. There's actually a audio drama of it too that is
Oh,
like
cool.
it's minimal extra production but really good voice production. And it works really well as
Oh,
like
cool.
the full immersive where you look at the pages while listening to the voices.
Yeah, great.
Ah,
Um, so with Halo Jones, so this was a much nicer story before all the things that have been
yes,
happening. But when we were filming Future Shock, we interviewed Neil Gaiman,
right,
and obviously now that's a bit like, but we interviewed Neil Gaiman, and he was talking about Halo Jones,
right.
and he
I
was
mean,
talking.
I'm going to say now that's a little bit, and I totally agree that now it's a little bit, but also go back to our previous conversation about how being one person, then suddenly being thrust into a different world really challenges people to figure out how they're supposed to behave.
Yeah, I guess I mean we all can contain multitudes, I guess,
Right.
but you know,
And it's not supposed to be forgiving of him. It's like don't slam yourself for having not seen it then.
oh no, that's not what I meant at
Right.
all. And
I
obviously,
know
because
you weren't, but like
like context is everything, isn't it?
that's
You're just
always
making
such a particularly
a
with comics
documentary.
where everything is collaborative.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of my favorite writers who I very rarely mention the name of on this show is Warren Ellis.
Yeah, Warren Ellis
And
is the pull quote on the front of my first book,
there we
Nick
go.
Nevin and the Bloody Queen, which I was super,
Oh, that
super,
was you too.
yeah.
I meant to reread that. That's fantastic. It's been a long time since I read it. I know I like pulled up that it was you when I booked the interview and I meant to reread it and I didn't and I'm sorry. I
No
read
worries.
that when it came out.
I mean, it's another one of these, like I do definitely like exploring these kind of difficult these
Right.
difficult women. But um, but yeah, Warren Ellis was the pull quote, and then he got
Right.
cancelled. Like, so
Right.
COVID
But what do you
happened, and
do?
he got cancelled like immediately
Right.
during the release of the book.
But I mean, so but that's not even what I was thinking of. But that's a legitimate thing. I mean, if you've got a pull quote from somebody who just got canceled, that means that affects you. If people, and for that matter, where I was even going is Planetary is as much John Cassaday,
Mm,
Transmetropolitan is as much Derek Robertson.
well,
You
yeah,
know, how
true
about
fair.
all the stuff he did with Colleen Doran? For
Yeah,
that matter, both Gaiman and Ellis have done how much with Colleen Doran?
mm,
If they
mm.
get canceled, I mean, if they, to the extent that their stuff isn't selling anymore,
Yeah, it
she's
affects.
actually probably getting hurt more than they are
Yeah,
because
yeah,
artists
because
tend
she's going to
not
be
to have
more.
the same amount of work.
Yeah,
Writers can churn out more, you know.
yeah. Um, but just quickly wrap up what I was saying about the Halo
Sorry.
Jones. No, that's fun. Just with the why I brought up Neil Gaiman
Right.
was because he was talking about Halo Jones, and he was talking about the fact that he spoke to Alan Moore. He and Alan Moore were having a conversation, and Alan Moore told him the rest of the story and how it was going to end and all the things that were going to happen in the third
Right.
arc that never got made.
Right.
And it was so good that Gaiman said that it moved him
Yeah.
to tears basically.
Yeah.
And like
No,
as he
I've
was
heard
telling us
just
about it,
enough
it was
about
very
that I am certain that if he had finished Halo Jones, it would be my favorite Alan Moore rather than my second favorite Alan Moore.
yeah, right. I mean, for me with Watchmen, the reason why it's just always my favorite is, I mean, firstly, it's be because of the when I read it and the
When you
effect.
read it. Yeah.
But also it's just because every time I reread it, I am astounded by how perfect it is in how it unravels its storytelling. and how it unravels the mysteries and how everything connects together, and this how satisfying the last section is, and how it makes you reassess everything that you've been reading. Like it's so astoundingly well
And
thought,
see, I
I think.
agree with literally everything you said, and it's a testament to Alan Moore that
Yeah.
even agreeing 100% with everything that you've said,
Mhm.
it's currently fifth among
Yeah,
my
you're right.
favorite Alan Moore, behind
From
Jack B.
Hell.
Quick. From yeah, it's Jack B. Quick, Halo Jones, From Hell, and Miracle Man
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, Miracle Man's great.
is
For
my top
me,
four,
um,
and
so
then Watchmen.
yeah, so for me, if it was if we're broadening it out a bit, then for me, you'd have Watchmen, you would also have From Hell, um, you would have Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
For me,
So,
Swamp Thing for
yes.
me
See, for
is
me,
really
it's a,
that,
depending on the day of the week, I might put Watchmen 6 and Swamp Thing 5, right?
yeah, right.
Today,
Yeah.
today
It's
it's
always today. Yeah.
Watchmen
Yeah.
5, Swamp Thing 6.
But Swamp Thing for me as a writer is one of the is one of the things I think that I've read over the years that has influenced me the most. Like
And this
Swamp
this
Thing
is
is,
where I also say that I haven't read his um Lovecraft trilogy.
oh
And I've
yeah,
heard
really
such
good.
amazing things about
Yeah,
Providence that
yeah,
I think is
fantastic.
entirely possible that once I manage to read that, it's
Mm.
gonna like jump
And
high.
there's also Lost Girls,
Oh, I love Lost Girls, but
which I'm a massive
it
fan
goes
of.
lower than those.
Mm.
Lost Girls probably right now it would be next, so it's in the seventh spot. Probably, I'd have to think about it a little because that's when I have to start thinking about like his Superman stories. The
Yeah.
the only three
V
of
for
them, but
Vendetta.
V for Vendetta I like less than a lot of people, which still means that I mean
Yeah, but I
he's
mean, yeah,
Alan Moore. He's Alan
yeah, yeah,
Moore. So like the worst Alan Moore comic is better
yeah.
than 90% of what other people, and I say this as somebody who's also been on the record saying that Alan Moore is overrated. I don't get the people who automatically call him the best comic writer ever. I
Oh,
think there's an
interesting.
argument for it. I think there's an
Hmm.
argument for Tom King. I think that there's an argument for Alex DeCampi. I think that there's an argument for a number of people that
Jeff Lemire.
don't Jeff Lemire that don't even wind up in
Massive.
the
Yeah.
conversation half the time.
Hmm. I mean, yeah.
Um,
There's so many
I mean,
examples.
among other things, I think a lot of times the people who are calling Alan Moore the greatest comic writer ever haven't read anything more than Watchmen. And I'm like,
Mm. I don't know. I mean, I have to be
I know
honest.
you have.
I have to be honest. I think that all things considered, and maybe this is a really basic bitch point of view, but I think that for me personally, he probably is my favorite comic book writer.
Right.
And that's not to I mean, Grant Morrison,
Yep.
James Tynion,
Yep.
Jeff Lemire.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that
Kelly
I'm
Sue
really,
DeConnick,
yeah, there's so many people that I'm really a big
Brian
fan of.
K. Vaughan.
Oh, I love Brian. Yeah, Brian K. Vaughan and Jeff Lemire would probably be maybe the
Yeah.
closest to
Yeah.
to to that for me. Um, Especially with Brian K. Vaughan, I think the depth of his catalog is um like what was the name of the political, oh no,
Ex Machina.
Ex Machina. Yeah, I mean there is a
It's
real,
so good, and half the people forget that he did it because of all the stuff he's done since then.
yeah, I mean and it's so good.
I mean,
Um
it's kind of like talking about Moore and V for Vendetta being
yeah,
like lower
yeah,
on my list of Moore
yeah.
because
But it's a
neither one of us
spectacular
have
comic.
even brought up League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, which I
Yeah,
also
I know.
love. or
Yeah.
Promethea, which I also love.
Yeah, Prometheus
Tom
amazing.
Strong, I'm about to read for our pulp blotter book club. We're
Oh,
going to do
cool.
Tom Strong for next
Yeah.
week.
Um,
Um, Top 10 is amazing.
yeah,
Have you
so I
ever?
think that
Yeah.
I think
Like I talk myself out of Alan Moore being overrated anytime I really start talking about him. I
yeah.
just I guess part of it is I'm opposed to anybody saying it's this person or even it's this person or that person and nobody else is close.
Oh
Right.
no, but also it's all completely subjective anyway.
Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
all, you
And
know,
that's my and it's not quite a beef as much as an observation and how it becomes incredibly hard to compare more to other comics writers, period.
mm.
He is the Dickens or Rushdie of comics. You don't you can't you can't sit down in an afternoon and enjoy Alan Moore. He's not a Nick Hornby. He's not even a J.D. Salinger or a Jack Kerouac or, he's dense. He's layered. You have to read and reread passages or pages. You have to spend time with it. You
Mm.
know, I remember a day where, have you seen the master edition of From Hell?
No, but I did hear you talking about it on your
Yeah.
podcast when you're talking
A-
about
A-
Anthony uh oh no,
Anthony Cleveland.
Anthony Cleveland, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You were talking
yeah.
about it being calling it's been colored.
Yeah. Well, but specifically colored by Eddie Campbell,
Yeah,
who
which is very
also
cool.
went back and cleaned up the art or cleaned up the inking and the lettering. So
Mhm.
like it is his definitive version of From Hell.
Yeah, very cool.
But it also had all of the original back matter or whatnot. I would spend like 4 hours with one issue. I would spend 4 hours with the other 10 comics I got that week, and then 4 hours with
Yeah,
one issue of From Hell.
yeah.
So again, it's just like a different, it's like comparing the Kinks to Mozart.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing is that I think I kind of object on a personal level to the idea that we need to think about
Yeah.
best.
I'm way
You know,
happier talking about my favorites than what I think is the
yeah,
best.
exactly. Exactly. When like many years ago, when Twitter was still cool, I used to do little one-line film reviews, and I would always rate things out of like what I think of as the ultimate version of that specific thing. So, for
Right.
example, you would rate like 2012 out of Independence Day. Um, and you would rate um let's say a zombie movie, you would rate out of Night of the Living Dead or whatever it may be, like the kind of paradigm of that very
Okay.
specific
Okay.
feeling or genre. Like you wouldn't even rate move fast zombie films out of zombie films in general. It would be like there'd be specificity to it.
Gotcha.
Um, and I was really pleased with myself when I came up with it because
Yeah.
I really
Well, this
thought
is where I'll
about
tell you
this
that Blue
particular thing.
Sky is like Twitter used to be. So like,
Oh, I'm on Blue
particularly
Sky.
in the comics community. So I mean,
Yeah.
you can bring it back.
Yeah, might just have to. But yeah, I think
I
that
mean,
musicians are
other
themselves.
than the fact that we're also burned out on social media because of what Twitter became,
Mm,
like, so it's all slower than it once was on Twitter. Nobody has the same level of blue sky obsession that I think some people had. Or it doesn't feel like anybody has the
good.
same level of blue sky obsession
Yeah.
that they once did with Twitter.
Yeah, I feel
But
like
it
that's
has more of the interesting, isn't this cool feeling than Twitter certainly became.
yeah, sure.
Just as
Um,
I was figuring out how to use it, Really, really
Yeah.
upsets me when I just figured something out and it becomes a hellhole.
Yeah, I feel like no, Blue Sky's got a real, a very sweet vibe to it. I think there's
Yeah,
a nice little
yeah,
show and tell aspect to it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you know, I mean, I'll always be hereditary
And
at
not
heart,
and
but
not run by a Bond villain. That's always helpful.
that is a plus.
That's
Yeah, I do
total
like it when
plus.
things are not
Not
run
run by
by
Bond villains.
absolute maniacs. Yeah.
We should probably wrap up soon, but I want to ask you about what appears to be a previous career or hobby in dog mushing and when we're going to get a comic about it. Because I feel like I can't think of a good dog mushing comic, and I feel like there are stories to be told in that arena.
So it's funny you should say that.
Are you
Um,
actually working on one? That would be
I
awesome.
can't say literally anything about it. I can only
Okay.
say I've already said too much
Okay.
thematically. But yeah, it's not without possibility that such
Right.
a thing, you know,
Could come into existence
exists.
someday.
Yeah, could happen at some point. But yeah, so dog mushing, I worked professionally as a dog musher for like 10 years up in Sweden and Norway, briefly in Alaska. I did long distance races
Okay.
um, and trained dogs and yeah, lived in the Arctic
So,
and
so I think for people who haven't done dog mushing, and I count myself as one of them, there are two sets of feelings about it. The first being, ooh, look at all those puppies. And the second being, God, that looks cold. And some people fall hard into one camp or the other, and most of us it depends on the day of the week where it's like I sometimes go, ooh, look at all those puppies that are in your picture here. That's a beautiful sunrise. But then I also go, that looks really cold.
it is
So
super
for those
cold.
of us who haven't experienced it,
Mhm.
tell us the cool things and the not cool things that we haven't even imagined about dog mushing.
Okay.
Just like one thing that you love about dog mushing that without doing it, we would be unlikely to think of. And one thing that you hated about dog mushing that without actually doing it probably wouldn't occur to us.
So, dog mushing is an endurance, like the long distance stuff I was doing, it's an endurance sport.
Okay.
So take it as a given that it's unbelievably tiring. You're running all through the night, and all this sort of stuff. I'd say one thing that I really hated about it, that you might not think about is okay, so the colder it gets, the more you have to do to protect, especially the dog's feet.
Okay.
So when it gets down to like say for example, it's minus 35 degrees centigrade. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's
It's really fucking cold.
unbelievably cold.
Right.
Um, so that everything is crystallized, all the snow becomes really sharp.
Right. Right.
It's a very particular type of cold. At times like that, then you have to do the most to protect the dog's feet. And that means that you would have to take your gloves off and take your mittens off, and you'd have to individually put cream into every foot of every dog in your team. There would be 12 dogs in the team, and they have 4 feet each. And you have to put this cream inside their feet so that they don't get too cold. Your hands are completely exposed. You're doing fine detailed work, picking dog feet off of the snow
I mean,
and putting cream in it.
I just have to ask if the cream helps keep their feet warm, does it at least kind of help keep your hands warm
No,
while you're doing it?
it's
No.
it's it's to stop the snow being abrasive to the feet.
I
And
was
then you have to
afraid it
put
was
these
going to be
little,
something like that.
yeah, and then you put these little
It's not like
booties
an
on
icy
top.
hot where like at least you're keeping your hands
Oh,
warm.
if only, if only. And so that process could last for like 15 minutes on a really cold day, or more because
I
you
gotta say
you
that's
lose
impressive
your
because that's
motor.
48 paws in 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
That's
but you're
that's
you're you're a professional, isn't it? You're racing.
yeah, but still.
But anyway, yeah. So yeah. So
I mean, I
that's
guess it
sort of
probably
carry
also
on.
helps that they're professionals. I mean,
Yeah,
most of us are
they're very
imagining
good.
trying to to catch our dog and convince
No,
them
it
that
wouldn't be
it's
like that. No,
okay to
no,
pick up their paw.
yeah, they gently like let you take their feet and everything. But that's like that's an example of the kind of downsides. The downsides tend to be very physical and are
Yeah.
to do with the fact that
I
you're,
was expecting physical, but like
yeah,
that
that you're
level, and
getting,
particularly the situation where you had to take your gloves off to
yeah,
be able
brutal.
to keep the dog's paws warm.
Yeah, because they're the priority. They're always the
Right.
priority.
Right.
So yeah, so that's like a real downside to the sport, I would say. And then, I mean, obviously it's a given that the main kind of one of the main upside is always going to be the dogs. The dogs are just
Right.
amazing and working with them is amazing. But if I could maybe talk about again something that's a little bit kind of out of what you would know about, there's something that it is more beautiful and touching than anything almost that I've ever experienced. That is about, so if you've been driving through the night and you're exhausted and it's dark, it's been dark and everyone's tired, so you're pushing the sled, like maybe you're going up a mountain, you're pushing the sled up because it's heavy to help the dogs, and you're really on the edge of complete
But wait a minute, wait a minute. You have to take your gloves off to keep their paws warm. And if you're going up a mountain, it means you're pushing the sled rather than they're pulling everything.
well, you're
I
working
see,
together.
I
Yeah.
see how it is. These dogs feel like they're pampered.
Yeah, but they have to be pampered
I
because
know,
you're
I
asking
know,
them
I
to,
know. I'm
you're
being
asking them to
silly.
run that you're asking them to run like 1,000 miles,
Right,
at the top of the sport. It's really
right.
you're asking a lot.
Yeah.
So anyways, you're pushing and you're tired and it's dark and you're kind of questioning your life choices and you don't understand why you ever got into this sport or why you're in this race and just cursing yourself as an idiot and trying to keep things going and these things can go on for hours and hours and hours. But then maybe you're coming to the top of the mountain, and I've had experiences where I'm kind of coming to the top to like a mountain plateau at the same time as the sun is rising, and the world is beginning to come alive, oranges and reds and pinks, and you can see the dogs, and the sun kind of elevates you, and suddenly you can see the landscape around you, and you can see for miles around these, and you're in the middle of a beautiful mountain range, and you realize that the sky is blue above you and whatever. And I think I've spoken to other dog mushers who feel the same way. Those moments where you can see the landscape and the sun is beginning to be visible and you can see your dogs and um, after kind of a long night, you get this kind of spiritually elevated state. It's really transcendent and it's you really feel it kind of in your soul. It's such a deep joy.
Yeah.
Um, and I've rarely experienced that sort of um, completely pure, uncomplicated joy at the at just the world and how lucky you are to be in that place at that moment to see it.
That sounds amazing. Um,
That's the plus side.
well, no, I'm thinking, my friend Sarah Gailey, um, who's been on the podcast a couple of times, and they have a thing that they're doing this year called Love Letters, um, Reasons to Be Alive. That's just a selection of essays from various people,
Oh,
um,
cool.
describing moments like that.
Hmm.
I feel like you just gave me a verbal love letter there.
Oh.
So I'm feeling tingly. Um,
Yeah, I get very passionate when it comes to the odd dog sledding.
well,
Yes.
and you've got a writer's skill for description. That was yeah, no, and I almost want to go dog sledding now, but probably
I
not.
really recommend it. It's really fantastic. I mean,
Is there like
layer
the
up.
old man amateur
Yeah.
short non-race dog sledding?
Yeah, 100%. I was a nature guide for a lot of the years
Okay.
I was racing. And
Okay.
I once had a guy called Wolfgang, who's a German guy, who did a 5-day tour with me, and he was 78.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah. But see, you went 5 day tour there. I think I'd want to start with like the 3 hour tour and hope that it
Sure.
didn't become the Gilligan's Island 3 hour
Yeah,
tour.
right.
I mean, when I was a younger man, I used to be kind of I mean, I was a Boy Scout, and I loved the outdoors part of it more than any other part of it. But then I spent a lot of years working indoors, and I still love that outdoors, but my body doesn't love it as much.
Yeah, and I have to admit, when it like dog sledding, I mean, it's really very
Not
outdoors.
as good at sleeping on the ground as I once was. I mean, I can do it from time to time. Uh,
We would
you
sleep on top of
know,
our sleds
yeah. Well, I mean, that's
in
possibly
later.
helpful. So, okay, last question. Tell me something you love, preferably a comic, but really any piece of art or again, preferably storytelling medium. But you know, if you want to give me music, if you want to give me a painting, I'll take whatever. Um, but something that you love and not enough other people have experienced it, and you want them to, so that you have more people to talk about it with.
Mm.
It doesn't have to be one thing. If you know, some people can't give me less than five because they immediately go boom, 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 boom. You know, I want it to be as low pressure as possible. But other
Uh,
than like, I hate saying underrated. You know,
yeah,
Nate
but
Powell
maybe it
actually
needs
gave us X-Men
underread.
comics, but he doesn't just because like he got into the new X-Men run, but he runs in like an indie comic circle where nobody reads X-Men. So he doesn't have anybody to talk to about it. You know, it's just something that you have experienced, read, whatever, that you want to be able to talk about with more people, and you don't feel like you have enough people around you to talk about.
Um, so I've never, so maybe comic wise, a comic that I wish more people had read. Well, Ex Machina, straight
I've read it a
up,
few times. It's amazing.
straight away.
Yeah,
And also Exterminators. Is it called Exterminators? The Robert Kirkman.
I think
Um,
so.
Robert Kirkman, well, pest control extermination horror thing.
I'm looking it up. We'll
I would
find out.
love to say that to someone and someone to be like, yes, oh my God. Because that was such a good series.
I'm trying to
You know the one I
remember
mean?
because I definitely went through a Kirkman phase.
Yeah, I read it. I think it was before. Um, I think it was before. Oh, what's the massive franchise, the biggest
Walking
zombie,
Dead.
The Walking Dead?
Yeah.
That's how bad my recall is. Yeah, I think it's pre-Walking Dead. And I think much like Ex Machina, it's just an amazing series that I adored from a creator whose later work kind of just eclipsed some of their really, really cool earlier things. Have you found it?
I haven't yet.
Wait, maybe I got the title wrong.
I mean, he's done so much that I might just be still going through the uh
Um, what is the next? I'm coming across really with as a writer with very few words at the moment. But
yeah, no, it's always
the
embarrassing for me when I have that.
what's the name of the type of animal, the insect that will still be here at the end of the world?
Cockroaches.
Cockroaches.
see. No, I'm now wondering. Da, da, da.
The Exterminators.
Is this Exterminators by
Yeah, the
Kirkman?
Exterminators.
Who was it published by?
Oh, it's because it's not written by Kirkman. I misremembered it. So it's written by Simon Oliver, but the art is by Tony Moore.
Okay. Okay. Now I'm seeing it,
Yeah, and so that's why. So I knew that there was a Walking Dead connection, but I
but it
misremembered.
wasn't Kirkman.
It wasn't
Gotcha.
Kirkman. So
Well, and you had me even getting to the point where I was remembering David Lapham comic that dealt with like bug stuff. Wasn't really extermination. It was
yeah. So the Exterminators is it was a series that I really really enjoyed. And I thought it was great. And like no one ever seems to have read it. And now I realize that part of the reason why no one's read it when I asked them if they've read it is because I got the creators
well, and now I need to look something up too because the only other artist listed on it is Philip Bond. So I bet you Shelley edited it.
um and then yeah, I mean I think that there's been a few really amazing series that don't seem to have quite
Oh,
kind
there
of
are
that
so many.
iconic status, but they were really amazing. Like East of West is another one
Yep.
that I rate like for me it's like up there. But I
Yeah.
don't know if like the culture, I don't know if the you know comic books in general has it in that elevated status that I think it ought to be in.
Yeah. I think one of the issues that uh, comics wind up having to deal with in general, particularly anything that is a series, is that series comics are dominated by superheroes. Um, and there's not enough crossover between the people who read graphic novels and the people who read floppy comics. So there's so many things that if they'd managed to sell them to a book publisher rather than doing them as single issues first, they would have been marketed differently and maybe reached a wider audience. But like
But
they're
weren't all of these books released monthly as
they
well?
they were well no, these were released monthly and then collected. But there's enough of a different pacing to a collected comic that lots of people who read graphic novels get thrown off
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, right.
by
That
but
way. Yeah.
you know, so I mean, and I haven't read Exterminators. You get a Stan Lee no prize is one of the handful of people that's thrown something out there that I didn't immediately know.
Through
Um,
it, but in a very garbled way.
yeah,
But
no, I'm
fun
looking
for
forward to it.
pro, but
Um,
I
but
I really, really enjoyed it.
but I do think that um, we're reaching a point where we have to really consider, what format is
Mm.
best for stories and more, particularly if we want them to last, if we want them to reach their audience, episodic isn't it. There are certain things that
Yeah.
are great episodic. I mean, going full circle, I think that Groupies is going to be one of those books that is a different experience depending on how you read it. And a great experience both ways. I think that really savvy readers, even reading it in a collected edition, are going to notice that and want to go back and like read one chapter and set it aside for a week, and then read one chapter and set it aside for a week because it changes the experience.
I think that's actually something that I've been thinking about a lot. Because so the release format of Groupies, like we were talking about earlier, it's on comiXology, and it's being released episodically
Right.
on comiXology, and then when it is released by Mad Cave, it will be as a trade. But a lot of people will experience it as a, in inverted commas, I'm doing the rabbit fingers
Right.
like you were earlier, um, a
Graphic novel.
graphic novel.
Right.
And I have been thinking a lot about that, what that means for the story.
Hmm.
Um, and um, and and I've been kind of considering um, whether and again this would be very Watchmen coded. um I have always been a really big fan of like back matter,
Right.
and but also potentially inter chapter
Yeah.
matter. um
Yeah.
and we already play around with newsprint
Right.
and
Right.
magazines and such like within the comic.
Right.
And I've been really mulling over like whether it could be kind of powerful and interesting to extrapolate that a little bit further.
Right. Right.
Uh,
I mean, I'm not expecting this because obviously when you're not your own artist, there are schedules and whatever to, but it reminds me of the Hernandez brothers when they collect their stuff, often will draw new pages
mm,
to turn it into a cohesive story rather than just the episodes of a bigger, So
yeah,
like
well,
every different version of Love and Rockets isn't actually quite the same
yeah, that's really cool.
because sometimes they will scrap panels, sometimes they will completely redo, because they take each individual thing and they want it to be something that you can experience appropriately and not, I mean, like
Exactly.
I one of the few people that I've ever given Saga to that didn't love it, and it wasn't that he didn't like it, it was that, and he's a big comic guy, right? But he drifted away from monthly comics and has done pretty much exclusively longer form graphic novel stuff for decades.
Yeah.
And he could feel the monthly nature. He could feel the autumn, and not just because they had the covers and whatnot, the way it would set up with the cliffhanger and
Mhm.
whatnot just disrupted the flow of his reading and made him less
Yeah, right.
interested overall. Which is why I laugh when like comic creator, there was and I won't name him because I don't, it's not about shaming him. And I think he's got great ideas, but there was a comic store owner that has, you know, one of the big comic store owners, and he has a column that wrote a couple of years ago about how much better Raina Telgemeier would sell if she'd serialized it. And I'm sitting there going, first,
You're spelling
better?
fine.
How much better? Raina you think she'd do better than 1,500,000 on an initial print run by
Right?
serializing?
Wow.
But
Shit, no, she's just waiting for your advice to
second,
let her
like,
career take off.
yeah, second, talk about like completely not understanding the audience of those stories and the
Mm,
stories themselves.
yeah.
Those stories, if you split those stories up into 22-page segments, it would be next to impossible to get people to read the next issue.
Yeah. But it's
You'd
also
have to almost completely rewrite them to make it so. I mean, because a
yeah.
22-page story, you gotta have something to hook them in. You gotta tell an actual story,
Yeah.
and then you gotta throw something in to make them come back.
Yeah. I
You
think that
know
there's just something about you know, letting things be the
what they
thing
are,
and
right?
let those things be different from each other. And
And this is,
especially
I mean, this is why some of this popped into my head. Is this is one of the
yeah,
things that I love about Mad Cave. Mad Cave is one of the few publishers out there that regularly will decide, no, this isn't single issues.
Yeah.
Make the graphic novel,
Yeah, right.
you know. So, yeah. But I should let you go. You've been kind enough to give me 2 hours. You're looking off at
Oh,
somebody
it's
or
been
a
a pleasure.
dog or
No, my flatmate has just walked in the door.
ah.
He just walked in the
Hi,
door and then,
flatmate.
yeah, he opened it up and then kind of and then backtracked. I didn't tell him that I was going to be doing anything weird in
Recording a podcast.
our
Yeah, I
living
mean,
room. So
we've had people randomly join podcasts, you know. Helen, thank you so much for your work. Thank you
thank
so much for
you.
joining me. I hope we can talk again because I feel like there's so much more to talk about.
For
And
sure.
I'll be anxiously looking forward to the end of Groupies, and I hope it's not as far away as Amazon says it is right now because they're saying May something. Um,
I think that probably is accurate. Yeah.
uh, well, if you happen to
Good
see it
things come to
early,
those
you've got
who.
my email address.
Yeah, so we're looking at May for the final issue.
For the
I
final
think it will
issue.
be worth the wait.
Worth the wait. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Tula
No, well, I
Lotay
mean,
has been, I
well,
mean,
I get that. If you ever and being, I've found that sometimes UK, Ireland, Scotland people are the most aware of comics because they're close enough to get to European comics, and there's
mm,
more of a US comic market in those areas than there is in the rest of Europe. Have you ever read Mr. Invincible? It's a French comic.
oh no, I haven't.
Okay, first of all, it's just
It's another
brilliant
recommendation.
because his superpower is he can move between panels.
Oh, great. I love it when people do things
Right.
with the
So,
gutters. Oh,
right.
so good.
So my favorite of the one-page stories is
Hmm.
one where he's wandering by and a kid reads his new comic and is frustrated that he's got to wait a month to find out how the story goes. So he climbs down the page,
Great.
gets the comic, brings it back up. The kid reads it. He's so happy. Thank you, Mr. Impossible or Mr. Invincible, blah, blah, blah. But then the kid's moving in real time through the panels and he gets to the end and he picks up the comic before Mr. Invincible steals it to take it up to him and goes, "Man, I read this one already."
Ah, great.
And that's so regularly how I feel.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the upside of podcasting about comics is people will send me stuff ahead of time. The
Yeah, right.
downside is that sometimes means that I have to wait longer to
Yeah.
find out what comes out next.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's a blessing and a curse, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. That's why I say, you know how to get a hold of me.
I know where you are.
You know where I am.
All
So,
right, cool.
Helen, thank you so much. And for 22
Thank you. It's been a
panels,
pleasure.
we will see you after the next page.
All right.
Hey guys, this is Tyler from 22 Panels. I'm here to tell you all about our Patreon. If you enjoy this show, please consider donating to our Patreon to keep this show going. We have many different tiers, all different levels to help you decide what's right for you. Okay, so get on out there to patreon.com/22 Panels Podcast.